You always push my
I
button.
always pushing someone's buttons. I always say I do not have a driver's license. I do have a license to drive people crazy, and I'm really good at that.
You
Hey,
are.
everybody, we're live. Just a
Hi, welcome to
just a
the
quick
podcast.
note for everybody who's listening. If y'all start hearing some like yelling and screaming, it's not because I'm killing anybody. It's because it's Thursday night football here in this household. So we got football going on. And if anybody leaves us for football, I'll find you and I'll whoop your butts.
And trust me, she'll do it.
Hmm.
So believe me on that. But we do have a very interesting show tonight. We're going to be talking about
Do.
this book, I Knew Now. Although he's got these other books that are really fascinating too. We're going to be talking about past lives and everything else. So
Yes.
if you have someone that's interested in those types of subjects, go get them.
Go
And
get
we're
him.
going to play his bio video, and he'll be with us
Hey,
as
Debbie.
soon as it ends.
Good evening, I am Gina B, here with Mama D every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here in the Fox Den. Tonight we have Michael Goddart. He authored In Search of Lost Lives, a winner of the American Book Fest Best Book Award, the Living Now Book Award, the Body, Mind, Spirit Book Award, and the National Indie Excellence Award. His new transformative book, A New Now, Your Guide to Mastering Wisdom Daily, Achieving Equilibrium, and Empowering Your Nobler Self, gives readers an invaluable guide to awakening and empowering their higher consciousness so they can readily navigate their life successfully, happily, easily, and discover how to live in their new now. When readers embark on this journey, they will experience a treasure trove of practical wisdom that will guide them step by step to their new now. Michael's fascinating journey began after his family moved from Illinois to California when he was just 10 years old. He started actively searching for the truth about death and how to attain true immortality with everlasting bliss. He began daily meditation at age 19, and at 21 he began to meditate for over 2 hours daily. For more than 3 decades, he also has been actively developing his sense of knowing and accessing his higher consciousness. Unexpectedly, in March of 2013, he began to recover exact, amazing details about 88 of his past lives, which were recounted in Search of Lost Lives, the only book to depict the spiritual evolution of a being across thousands of lives. His other books include Bliss, 33 Simple Ways to Awaken Further, which sold over 38,000 copies, and The Spiritual Revolution, A Seeker's Guide, which Hollywood Spiritual Film and Entertainment Festival named Best Spirituality Self-Help Book, and Australia's leading spiritual bookshop named it one of the 10 greatest metaphysical books ever written. He is here now to share his wisdom with us in the Fox Den, and we welcome you, Michael.
And
Well,
here he is. Welcome,
Hi, Michael.
Michael.
thank you. What a wonderful introduction and what fabulous graphics. I'm super impressed.
Thank you. I
She's
work
good at what
hard
she
on
does.
those.
Yeah, really wonderful. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. Hi, Debbie, and hi, Colette, and hello, Rich Roselle, Mr. Roselle himself, and hi, Nicole. Glad to see you all here tonight. And if you guys have any questions at all for Michael, feel free to put them in the chat room. So now, Michael, you went from. Oh, Mama's got a question already. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, in the intro video, intro bio, 2 hour meditation? Michael, I can't even sit still that long.
Well, actually, it's at least 2.5 hours at one time.
Wow.
My meditation, if I'm not sitting on my tuchus falling asleep, my best place to meditate is when I'm doing dishes. Don't tell my husband, please. Hiya, gorgeous.
Hi, honey. That's my baby.
Um,
That's my boyfriend.
yeah, one heart for you, one heart for me. Just remember that, okay?
Yeah.
Is when I'm doing dishes because that's when I flow. I'm a Scorpio, so it's like it just sort of connects. But I don't know if I could sit consciously for 2 hours and meditate. I mean, I haven't tried, but I never actually get 2 hours of peace and quiet. So
Mhm.
Oh,
But you know what?
I'll
You know
have
what
to
he
try
says
it.
in here?
Hmm?
Practice. practice makes perfect.
Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
There are actually 10 keys to success. That's actually in my book, Spiritual Revolution. And they're practice, 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 well, 10
Right.
times. But I started over 2 hours when I was 21. So I had the youth to kind of develop the habit. It's really all about developing the habit. But, you can do waking, walking meditation, like going to the gym. I used to have 40 pounds more muscle mass, but that was actually a meditation for me. It wasn't a formal meditation, but I was doing my repetition. And believe me, I got right back into my spiritual center. So in A New Now, I write about how to return to your spiritual center, which is really vital for maintaining your equilibrium.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I want to back up though. All right.
Sure, let's back up.
Yeah. in your 20s, and why you started doing all this to begin with. So you moved. All right. So you moved from snow country to beach country when you were a child.
Woohoo! I'm going there.
And,
Yeah,
and
my mother said one more winter and I won't survive it. We were in Park Forest, America's first perfectly planned community. It was known as the sociologist's playground because they were peeping into windows, making reports. But she said she couldn't handle one more winter with her bursitis, so we moved to Marin County, which is just over the Golden Gate from San Francisco. And I don't know if it was the beautiful cool fogs that kept rolling in at 4 p.m., but all of a sudden I wanted to start contacting higher spirits, higher entities. I don't know where that came from. And I started to do automatic writing. I started to do self hypnosis. And it was really after we
so
moved to
at, at, at,
Nevada, yeah,
at what age was this?
10 years old. And I was well acquainted with death because since I was 5, I'd raised tropical fish. So every few weeks or every month, I'd have to catch one belly up in a net and flush it down the toilet. So eventually I knew I'd go belly up or belly down, and I'd need to be flushed somewhere, hopefully not down someone's toilet. Uh,
Ooh,
so after I
yikes.
turned 11, uh, we couldn't really afford, my dad was just starting a new business. We couldn't afford to join a religious institution, which was all well and good. So I just decided, I tried to experience what it would be like for me to die. And I would go into the bathroom and lock myself in there and stare at myself in the mirror and really just try to grasp that reality. And I would break out into a cold sweat, my knees would buckle. This is all when I was 11. And so I decided at that point to dedicate my life to finding the secret of life and immortality. And that was my search. But it didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, if you were to read my spiritual memoir, In Search of Lost Lives,
Want that book badly.
yeah, you will see that this was a progression. I came into this life primed to do that.
Yeah, because you made reference, to it too in this book. Because this is the only one that I have. Actually, you know what's better than having just one?
You too.
One goes in the
Because
box that's coming up to my house.
well, I'm also thinking that maybe someone watching might need one.
Okay, fine. We might give one away tonight. If anybody is in the chat room who would like a copy of Michael's book, just let us know.
It's
We'll put
really, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I could give away 3 more books if people want
Oh,
to email
nice.
or message you their full mailing address. We could arrange for that.
Okay. That'll be in the U.S. only, because in Canada it costs a fortune to get across the border.
It
Gosh
certainly
darn
does.
Canadian
It
border
does.
police.
Thank you, Mama D.
You're welcome.
So
Debbie would like
if
one.
you'd like to get one. All right. Well, Debbie, message me after the show. But it is really good. I do like how you laid it out because you're saying, all right, there's 6 keys, there's 3 steps, there's this, that, and then you go into detail about each one in plain English that
Hmm.
anybody can understand. Anybody. All right. So it's not like, you're not a yogi, you're not talking Sanskrit, you're not doing all those things that people get annoyed with, basically. But you're
Yeah,
giving them instructions.
I no, I really wanted to cover all the practical situations she could run across to empower people to navigate their lives. It was written just really the year before COVID, and I I've been taking notes in between my appearances for In Search of Lost Lives, and basically it really came from my higher consciousness. Was I'm a writer basically, and I was really missing writing something new. So I just asked my higher knowing if there was a new book I could begin to write, and I got an affirmative. And I basically just intuited the working title and the working subtitle word by word, and then it was off and running. I just felt it was too audacious, too daunting to write it, but I found myself taking notes. And it wasn't until I thought, just need to get away and see if you actually have a book here. I had notes in between my appearances for the last book. And so I just started going through them and I just automatically started to revise them. But it really gelled for me when I was in Delray Beach and I was having dinner in a vegetarian restaurant, and there was just me and this really sweet couple who were 20 years old, and it just hit me. What if this young man and young woman were my twin son and daughter, and I was to die of pancreatic cancer quickly, which my mother did. Uh, she thought she lived to be in her 90s, and she died when she was 83, which is a respectable age. I decided this is the book I'd want to leave them with. But later on, talking to friends who've retired, and they're saying, I don't know what to do. I've spent my whole life working and raising a family. For people who've really had to hustle and devote their whole life to just getting by day after day, and suddenly they have a few minutes of spare time or a lot. If I had a sister who raised a family and worked all her life, this is the book I'd want to leave her with. Because it's really a guidebook you can use for the rest of your life of how to create the best life possible for you yourself and to empower you to further you on your spiritual journey.
Yes, yes. So wherever you are too on your journey, whether you're just beginning, you're in the middle, or you're at the end, this this will work for all of it. Um, but it's like what you should do is read the book, then turn around and start again, and pick the parts that you want. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like you just back up. Like
Yeah.
when I
And,
read a book, I have like dog ears everywhere. Do you see all the dog
She
ears I
does.
put in here? I do that all the time. I
and,
even have things sticking out of it, marked up all over the place. But this time I just dog eared.
and that's great. And actually, what I created to help people go back and attend to what they want to attend to or remember things is what I call the Journey Journal. And you can download that from my website, Goddard.com.
Right.
So it's a simple Word document with all the chapters and all the sections. And I give guidance at the beginning of the book of how to work with it, because I'm sure many of us and your listeners have read very helpful transformational books, and you might remember two or three things, and then a week later, it's like as if you didn't read it.
I know. I
Yeah.
hate that.
And this is a way of really locking in what you want to do, how you want to make progress. And then if you keep it in a Word document, you can go back 3 years later and see what your mindset was, what you were going through. So this is a way of really empowering your journey, your spiritual journey, which we're all on, even if we're not aware of it or not. Each of us come here with a definite spiritual purpose, and we may discover it or not during our lifetimes. Um, in my memoir, In Search of Lost Lives, I write about most of the spiritual purposes I have in those lives. And they're all over the place. I mean, in one life, it was just to realize that all animals are living and to begin to respect that life. And if you slaughter them, they're going to suffer from it. And so I've had all kinds of lessons, and we're here to really grow into the ultimate love, which is available to us.
Wow. So now, when you were in your meditative states, how is it that you came across the past lives? Like, what was the first one that you came across? And then, of course, that's going to be like, dangling a carrot. You're going to want to look for more once you have one, right? But what was it that brought you to it, and what was it exactly?
Well, it was actually the anniversary of my initiation. I'd been initiated, if I recall correctly, like 42 years. And I had been wondering, before I was initiated, I really wanted to know what my last 4 lives were and whether I'd ever met what I would call a realized saint or a realized master. And so I have been developing all kinds of intuitive processes where I can really suss out what is true. So the first life that came through to me was when I was a British banker 2 lives ago, and I had an assignment. I had 2 assignments overseas. The first one was in Bombay, and I traveled to Agra on a newly built railroad and met a saint. And I didn't really have that in mind. I wanted to see the Taj. I wanted to see the Agra Fort. I had a British host to put me up, but while I was on the train, all of a sudden it dawned in my consciousness, maybe there's a Swami in Agra that I could meet. And I write about it in the book. It was like this glowing pearl inside of me of wisdom, of knowledge, of this pure spirituality. And so I arrived, and I was given tea, and I was talking to my host, and I just couldn't help myself. I said, "Do you know of any swamis in the area?" And my host said, "No, I'm sorry." But then a few minutes later, he said, "Wait a minute, I have an employee. Let me call him." And this servant of his arranged my meeting in Agra. And I actually knew where it was. And this lifetime, when I went to India, I went back, and it was one of the most powerful experiences of my life.
Like
I
memory? Did you know where to go?
Oh yeah, I knew exactly where to go. I went to the courtyard where I was. I had my interview, which was like for an hour and 20 minutes with a translator. But I got to go inside the house and where the saint meditated, and I was just in a state of pure exaltation, believe me. And a lot of us have had these experiences of deja vu. Of course, there at that time when I went back, I didn't know I had a past life there. I did not know because I had just turned
Sorry.
25 years. It was my very first trip to India. So I didn't really recover that knowing until I began to recover the past lives. But I had powerful deja vu every time I went to Bombay. When I went to Occidental, which is in Sonoma County, I was there when it was just beginning as a settlement. It was after my assignment in India. I did a round the world trip, by steamer. I stopped off in San Francisco. So these intimations that you may have, these intuitions,
So you
remember them.
kind of
They can be true.
rounded the circle because now you moved here as a child to
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because when I visited Occidental, it came to me, gee, I really would love to live in Sonoma County someday. And I did. I mean, I first moved to Marin. Sonoma County is the county immediately north. But after I got my MFA, which is like a doctorate in writing in Ohio, I moved back and I bought a place in Sonoma County. So our desires are really key to who we are and where we're going. If you desire something strongly enough, it can, what I say, it can congeal into a karma. So the best desire, really, if I may just blurt this out and share it, I feel subjectively the best desire you can have is to know God or whatever you call the supreme being. You can call it the great mother. That power is beyond, way, way beyond male or female.
Yes.
yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, there's someone else in charge, and we're not it.
Well,
And you don't have to worship outside of yourself. The entree to your higher power is really within you.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it away, but if you guys get this book and read it, way at the end, remember this conversation, right? Just
I
remember that.
haven't finished my copy yet. Hmm.
Yep, and that's all I'm going to say.
She just likes dropping
You
hints. What can
too.
I say?
You too can do this. So, okay. All right. So now you have this this first past life under your belt, you've already done automatic writing, you've done all this meditations, you're just leaps and bounds going forward with all of this change and morphing yourself. And when did you start realizing you could teach other people this?
Well, first of all, I really don't consider myself a teacher. I'm just a tax accountant who loves to write, basically. My main
I like
profession
that.
was
You're a
I
teacher.
did taxes. And I'm so glad I didn't have to teach composition, which I did at the university for a
Woohoo!
while, because all that bad writing would have brainwashed me in the best way. So I did something really very right or left brain, I always forget. I did taxes and I loved helping people because actually taxes and spirituality are not that different. They're really kind of, they can be vague and abstract and amorphous. And when I worked at the Bank of America in the corporate tax department, I was the manager of communications. So I had to explain our very arcane reimbursement and tax policies to all the expatriates working at the B of A overseas. So I, so I had that training and that technical writing.
Hmm, that's
So,
interesting.
and I'm forgetting your question, Gina. I'm sorry, that's typical. But I wanted to just go back a moment because when I met the saint, that was 2 lives ago. My last life, I was also English, and my family had an office supply business, which I became a co-owner of. But I call that my English seeker life because that life, starting when I graduated from Cambridge University, was all about seeking. I would read book after book after book, searching for, I wasn't sure what I was searching for, but I was searching. And there's a lot of pages in my memoir about that life. So I say this in most of my interviews. If you are a seeker, really that is the highest calling, to be a seeker after truth. If you spend your whole life seeking, which I did my last life, you are building a fabulous foundation and setting yourself up for your next life.
Now, do you believe too? Okay, so people can live thousands of lives, and some people can live two lives. Some people can live one life. Um, like I know I'm an old soul. I know I am. I know about a few things that have happened in my past. Um, there's this one house, and I swear it might be here, that when you were saying, when you went to India, you went to that courtyard, you saw all these things, that all these things were familiar to you. Well, when I was a kid, I don't even know how old, maybe 5 or 6, I kept having this dream over and over and over and over, this big huge white house. I would go into the White House, and I remember going down the stairs, down the hallway. On the one side was all these archways, and there was like a room full of all kinds of furniture in there. On the opposite side of all those archways were archways again, but they had doors and statues on pillars in between each one. I it's almost like yesterday. I can still see it. I know the kitchen. I've been into the kitchen. It had red tile floors. It had big stainless steel everywhere. And then I was just riding around with my friend Marion, and we look, and I see this house. And I'm like, whoa, because we just drive around the neighborhoods to see the great houses, because I'm new to Pennsylvania, and, so that's what we do. We just, point the car in a direction and go. So we do that. But I saw this house, and I'm going, oh my God, this looks like the house from my childhood, and I want to go in that house, like in the worst way, to see if it is that house. But you know what happened while we were driving up? A fox went running through the front yard. And I'm like, and there's my spirit animal, So I was just like, wow, this is something, you know. But people do have that. They have that deja vu thing, that thing, I feel like I've been here before. I feel, did I do this already? And you haven't. All these things are definitely cues and signs, I believe, of other lifetimes.
Yeah, and many children, up to the age of 5 or 6, really are in contact, or they may know who certain family members are. But then it's like a call forms over your consciousness and hardens because most people are really not meant to know their past lives. That's one of the great challenges of life on this planet.
Hmm. Debbie says, how
So
do we see what our past lives were? well, there's a number of different ways, but
Yeah,
how he
yeah,
would.
I mean, most of us are not meant to. I know there are practitioners who do hypnotic regression. I
Mhm.
really can't speak to that because the two times I tried to be hypnotized, they gave up. They couldn't hypnotize me. My will was too strong. But you mentioned that maybe you're an old soul. Basically, though, souls are beyond time. So all of us souls are really ageless. So what I think a better way of saying that, if I may interject that, is that you've been a human in many past lives, and you've been through many teachings and practices and
Mm.
spiritual things. So you know mind and soul entities that recently have become human, and they've been animals. They can be very aggressive and violent. I mean, this is why our consciousness of humans on the planet varies so much. Everybody has their whole unique history and path. You may be, this may be your third planet for all you know. I mean,
Exactly.
Mm.
I discovered I was lived on two other planets before this one, and I had many more lives on those planets. And believe me, Earth is by far the school of hard knocks compared to those other two planets. It's sort of like you kind of start out in a more salubrious environment, you know.
Hi,
So,
Eric.
Oops.
Team Teddy.
Don't touch it. Yeah. Message say hi to Teddy.
so Mama D, did you have a question?
Nope. I was just
Oh, she,
not
Or you're
touching
just
because
waving?
she
we
did say she
always
was
do.
going to do
We
that.
always get. I know. I do. It's like it'll be like this. It won't be half.
Yeah.
I just I touch
So,
something. Gina touches, and it's like okay. I'm gonna stop touching.
okay. So something just came to mind. We're talking about past lives, and even if people believe in it, I find that a majority of people don't believe they can be anything other than human. But I have news for you. You can fall down the evolutionary ladder and be an animal. Um, I I describe instances when my bad actions outweighed my good, and I became an animal my next life. I mean, in one life I was a skunk, and quite a few I was a dog or a rabbit.
Michael
Many
Goddart.
lives I was a rabbit. So don't take this life for granted. Uh,
No.
you could become a fox. Well, you probably were a fox in a past life. I mean, I have a great affinity for elephants and beavers and dolphins, and I've recovered that I've had lives in those three species, really.
Right.
So
But do you believe also, though? I don't mean to interrupt you. You can get back to your thought. But karmic wise, that if you, all right, if we have bad karma and life after life, you're trying to rectify this, by the time maybe you realize that you have to rectify this, it might be too late in this lifetime. And then, you could just continually mess up. And, the
Hmm.
more you mess up, you can karmically get yourself back down to when you get reincarnated into being a worm. I mean, like being as in when you were that bad, like murdering people or something that's just horrific.
right
And
now, I didn't recover any lives when I fell down further than an animal, and I'm pretty positive I started out as a bush on my first planet, and I went, from uh, vegetable life to insect to fish and bird, finally to animal. But the thing is, I did recover two lives, and my actions were so egregiously evil that I didn't come back as an animal. I was consigned to what I call a state of reformation. In common parlance, that is a hell where I went through what seemed like eternal suffering to completely reform my character. And I describe these lives in the memoir. So if you really,
read
really
that book.
mess up, if you really mess up, you may have some really hard times ahead of you. Now, on the other hand, if you create lots of wonderful, giving, selfless, which I want to underline actions, you can go to a heaven for a seeming eternity. But the thing is, you're going to come back. I mean, you keep coming back until you are without karma.
Right, right. So that could take people a long time, or it could take some people could
Lifetime.
get it right
Many
away.
lifetimes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, and that's why I'm happy. I mean, I never ever imagined I'd write a book like A New Now. I mean, I really wanted to be a novelist, but I kept having, obstacles in my path until I was really forced to focus on the spiritual writing. But the whole point of A New Now is to make best use of your life, really. And I'm not anyone to tell anyone, what their path is or what they should do. But from this book, it's like a whole smorgasbord of how you can take charge of your spiritual journey and do what you need to do. I mean, some people are not meant to meditate. Others, their lives are full of meditation. I mean, some
Yeah.
people are meant to serve in the church. I'm not anyone to tell anyone to do anything,
No.
but I just want people to appreciate that they have this precious gift, and the clock is running out, as we learned really in a harsh way recently with people we thought would be in our lives for the next 20 years or 30 years. They were taken.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be through a pandemic. It can be, you can get in a car and that's your last ride
Yeah.
in the car.
Right, right. Well, our very own Athena is like, she's lucky to be here. She was in a horrific car accident, but she survived that for a reason. I believe that all the people that survive, it's for a reason.
Yeah, and often the trajectory of her life really changes and goes in a more
Yes.
spiritual direction. And a number of people write about their NDEs, their near-death experiences. They
Hmm.
were almost died in surgery, or they did die, or they were in a car accident.
Nope.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I did. I did that. I died and came back right away. I stopped myself. From that point on, now I hear tones. I'm more in contact with the spirit realm since then. You know,
Hmm.
but at that time, I didn't realize it. Until when I started getting into what I do. But meditation was a tough thing for me, and the way that I found to actually get myself to meditate, because my mind never shuts off. It just
Mm.
doesn't. I just describe it as like uh, there's a million file cabinets in there and all the drawers are open. If I could just shut them drawers, I think I'd be all set. But when I meditate, it's like those drawers are like, all right, there's something in here you need to do. But if I can do a guided meditation and someone is telling me to relax and someone is telling me to go down that peaceful path and someone is telling me to do all these things, I will. So maybe that's what, people need. Some people, Pookie was in here, Chris, my old uh, co-host here, right here, Chris George. He's a psychic medium. He likes to meditate to like drumming. People like it doesn't. Everybody is different. Thank God they are. But whatever works for you. And when you say you're a searcher, search for what works for you. You know.
What resonates with you, what you feel comfortable doing. But in terms of having your thoughts go out, it's like you are a select member of the Universal Club. I mean, that is the nature of the mind, to go out and out and out and out. So when your attention, though, is centered at your eye center, which is right here,
Hmm.
between and above your eyebrows, when your whole consciousness is centered, there is an energetic aperture you can withdraw through with your mind and soul and explore inner space, the higher inner regions. But to do that, you really want an advanced teacher who can meet you and guide you. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
there are realized perfect masters who that's what they do. And for those who are able to still their minds adequately, they can go within and see like what's called the radiant form of their master. And it's like a million times more beautiful than the physical form, because it's less matter and more spirit. The
Right.
spiritual inner regions are progressively more and more breathtakingly beautiful. Words can't describe how amazing they are.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, you're right. You're right, because I mean, and even Debbie said, she's tried many times to meditate too, and her brain won't shut up. Well, do what I did. Do try it. See if it works for you. Guided meditation. Someone's telling you, and just in 2 minutes. Do 2 minutes, then do 3 minutes, then do 4 minutes, and 5 minutes. Like we said at the beginning of the show, practice practice, practice. You know, maybe you can't
It,
get 2 hours or 2.5 hours like some people,
Yeah, no, exactly. No,
but
if you can sit down and try to still your mind for 2 minutes, that's really good. I
Yeah.
write about a life when I was in South Africa, you know, uh, about 15,000 years ago, and my father was the wise man of the village. And I just found myself wandering off into the bush, and I would just sit down. I wasn't sure what I was doing. That was sort of like a beginning of meditation, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So it's all about finding what resonates with you on a higher level, what creates love and a higher awareness, and never to judge, anybody. I mean, the last thing I'd ever want to do is talk somebody into doing anything, because I'd rather empower someone to discover what is right for them right now.
right.
Yeah.
So you're not. Yeah, we're not saying go out and get this, but if you do, what would be
We're not saying it, but we're saying it. I'm
what would be
saying it.
some of the benefits that people would get from this?
Well, you would get clarity of mind. Uh, Actually, you could find happiness. You could learn what best to do now. You would increase your powers of discrimination, and very importantly, you would get a really good grasp of your mind and your soul. And when I say mind, I talk about the higher mind, the habitual mind, and the lower mind. A lot of people, and this is really basic, but it's so critical. A lot of people think they are their minds. Well, I have news for you. You're actually not your mind. To operate on this plane, this physical plane, you need a body. That's why you came into your mother's womb and you were born, and you need a mind. And for the higher mental regions, you need a mind. But who you really are is the soul, which is immortal, which is a spark, a particle of God, call it what you will. Your soul is all love. And all your soul wants is your union with God. But your mind has a mind of its own.
Right.
Yeah, that nexty little thing called free will.
Well, initially when we came here, we had free will, but every action begets a reaction. It's sort of like, you start out playing chess, that's an example often given. And after about 20 moves, there are only so many moves you can make, and your pieces get taken, and eventually you're checkmated, and then it's on to a new game. So most of us have had so many lives. I mean, we have 5 Himalaya mountain ranges of karma sitting on us. So if you want to find out how to evaporate the karma,
Is that
you
what
can
those
do it.
are?
Oh yeah, that's just that
It's
mountain.
happened that way.
No, actually, it's a mountain. It's a fabulous picture of a mountain range in Austria, which is where
Okay.
my mother was born.
Okay.
She was
Those
Austrian.
hills are alive then.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The hills are alive.
Yeah. So,
It's the Sound of Music reference.
I didn't quite hear you.
I'm like,
Please
Well,
don't start
she
singing.
grew up with, I mean, I grew up with Strauss because Johann Strauss, that's what she loved. I mean, she'd go to balls and everything. She lived the high life in Austria until she
wow,
had to leave.
wow, that's pretty amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
She,
now,
yeah.
I gotta interrupt you again though. All these lives, and you say 80. Have you come across more now? Because when I got your bio, it says 88. Have you come across more now than the
A,
88?
a few more. Curiosity was a driver, and then I was just really directed by my higher sense of knowing. Like at the end of the day, before I'd go to bed, I would just ask my higher self, you know, am I supposed to write? And I would find out there would be a group of 7 lives I had to recover and discover, and I'd have entrees into them. But I've just recovered a few. I mean, I've come across many people I've known in past lives. So sometimes I'll be curious what our connection was, but typically I'll automatically know. I was curious as if there was any lives on Earth that led me to be consigned to a hell. And there was one. Most of them were on my second planet, but there was one when the issue was greed. I did. I was suffering from want. Well, it was a very difficult life, and I didn't. I wasn't really fair to the rest of our struggling settlement. So that greedy life, I had to take a break from being a human, and I went to that state.
Wow.
So we
Are you
always,
are,
yeah.
are you getting these lives at like over a month, over 2 months? I mean, you're getting more details. You get a little snippet, and then a little bit more.
Well, it started out by kind of getting the main things I had wondered about and curious about, but after a few months in 2013, I realized I could basically know whatever I wanted to know about my past lives. But also, I would know what I couldn't know. So I would definitely know if there was something I couldn't know about them. But definitely, I mean, I got all these details, like of what my father did for work, what my mother did, where we lived, where I could know exactly where he lived geographically. One of the hardest lives to recover where I lived, I kept getting these two countries. Well, it dawned on me, I lived on the border of these two countries.
Right.
Okay.
So it was very, very specific. But the point is, I did some training before this life to be able to traverse time. I did a special kind of meditation uh, before entering this lifetime to do this. So I look at this really as a service to open people up to the possibilities. Mama D.
E. Um, do you of your 88 lives, because we're going to go with what's in the book that Gina knows better than I do.
Yeah.
Um, are there any that you can remember that were, we'll say, like you passed when you were a child, you transitioned when you were a child, like
Oh
not
no.
like not as old as me right now, but next week. But did you pass when you were like before your teens, and how
Oh
did that affect you when you found that you passed as a as a child?
yeah. I'm actually going through a lot at the moment because I'm remembering two lives. One when I see I don't have a good memory because it's all written down. But I was like, well, 8 lives ago, I was a boy in Sweden. I was 5 years old, and I caught an illness, and I died. But I felt I was completely taken care of, and I don't want to give away what happened because that's all described in the book. But that's a very, very special life because something changed in that life. But long before that, I was a slave. I actually write about 4 lives when I was a slave, and I was a slave. I believe it was in Bosnia, and I had to cut all this grass with the scythe, which was too heavy for me, and nobody
Right.
taught me. And I cut myself, and I got infected, and I got sicker and sicker. And so that life as a slave, I died in an early age. I believe I was 8 at the time.
Mm.
But the lives of slaves were very interesting, and I had quite a few triggers when the light started to come through, and one of them was seeing the preview for 12 Years a Slave, actually, and I was just absolutely overcome with emotion and anguish and horror, and that was the first time I recovered a life when I was a slave in a very unexpected place.
Have you met anybody in this life that you knew from a past life? And what was the
Uh,
trigger that?
quite a few. Uh, and I write about that in the memoir. But I think this will interest people, particularly if you feel you've had a very powerful connection with somebody. Between lives, I was with what I call my cohort of 7. And
Mm.
these were the 7 mind and spirit entities. We were like in our own little classroom together, although it was not physical. But we would be kind of re emerging between lives and checking things out. This is the group of people I've had the most incarnations with by far, by far. And what's really unusual is that this lifetime I've known all of them. I'm the only one to have known all of the 7. And 2 lives ago, when I was English, I knew all of them, although they didn't know each other. And each of them that I've talked to shared that it was such a weird, powerful experience meeting them. And I write about all of this in the memoir. I mean, if you've ever kind of felt connected to somebody, I have a section of the
Yeah.
book called Jumping into Old Friends. I would feel like my mind jumping without me doing anything, wanting to know who is this person without ever meeting them. They are so familiar, so powerful. Well, in particular, these are people you've had strong past associations with. So
Right.
part of
I
you, your
think
higher
that,
sense of
yeah,
knowing, knows that.
yeah, I think
Hmm.
like best friends, like when you have best friends and things like just someone that you just automatically click with, that could be someone that you had a life with.
Yeah, and like this one person I read about that I was in a gym with two levels and I kept seeing him above me and I intuited several things about him. But we never met until
Hmm.
we both moved to a new gym and then it was deserted. We were like the first people there. And I just stopped to talk to him in the middle of a set. We talked for 45 minutes. It just, and then within a few weeks, we were meeting for lunch every week. And what I
Yeah.
had intuited about him, like riding horses, art, that type of thing, was all true. So, I mean, the point isn't really, I mean, it's wonderful if you can access your past lives, but, more important, perhaps, try to get in touch with what your spiritual purpose is this
Right.
lifetime,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
what you want to achieve. And maybe you want to create beautiful music for people that will uplift them. So you can strategize about that. Maybe you've had to work your whole life and now you're just beginning to have more time to compose music and to play. Well, you can kind of create this for the next life.
yep. And again, all right, refer back to the book. In this book, you explain to people how to do these things, which is kind of like the book that I want to write with my circles things, because you're like circle it, and then you're putting things down around it because this is what I do. It's like you've got an issue, you put it in the circle and you come down. It's like, well, you can. There are a bunch of solutions. What you can and can't do is regardless, but write them down. And then what you can do at the time. All right, well, I can't do all these 10 things, but I can do this one. So you do that one, and that could stem into doing another and another and another, and you can rectify that problem. But you do a similar thing in the book, and it makes it so easy. So easy.
Well, I'm very specific in the section prioritize your day, and also one of the wisdoms is the wisdom of priorities. And so that really, in a very specific, practical way, helps you make best use of your day, but also plan for the season and for years. So there's a lot of very detailed, nitty-gritty, practical information to help you do that.
Yeah. Oh, oh, hi, Tanya. So many people think they can't meditate because of intrusive thoughts. Everyone starts off like that. It's normal. It lessens with a lot of practice. Yes, that's what we've been saying. And again, too, you can go and look into a teacher. You can go and look into online. Everything is online. Go to
Yeah.
YouTube. Put in meditation, guided meditation, and put in for like a 2-minute one, a 1-minute one.
Hmm.
All these things have these meditations. Some of the people that we've had on the show have great meditations on
Hmm.
their sites. You know,
Right. And in the book I do now, I do write about meditation and I write about becoming clear on what your goals are and what you want to achieve. And I give like five very, very different examples.
Yeah.
So don't let yourself be persuaded. I mean, if you want to try anything out, by all means. But within it now, I do give that guidance to help people become clear on if they do want to meditate, what they want to achieve with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a very lofty goal. I want to achieve liberation of the mind from the soul and reunion with God. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate.
that's that.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and I want to be out of here. But it may be just to feel calmer and more relaxed. Uh,
Well, you don't look high strung to me.
Yeah.
I
No.
know, no, that's good.
I have just a quick one here because I have a friend who's rather shy and doesn't want to type in the chat room. He says, don't have to do anything special to meditate. You can meditate to la la bubbly music, or you can make it meditate to Megadeth or Iron Maiden. as long as your mind relaxes and you tune into spirit, whatever works for you.
That's it.
I'm not sure about Iron Maiden, but hey.
Well, I'm telling you, some people they just need
Yeah,
that.
no, I know.
It drowns out the thing that is distracting
The
them.
yeah.
So you
It's
can
like
have
I know
that just
somebody
boom,
who
boom,
sleeps
boom,
with
boom.
TV with white noise on all night
all the time.
long.
Well, there are many writers who, when they're writing books, they have this special music they listen to really loud. I need quiet. That's me. So,
Mm.
my mother would listen to music when she painted or sculpted. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
really getting to know
I
yourself.
listen to the '70s. I like the '40s and I like the '70s.
Yeah, I love the '70s. I love as well as the '40s for
Yeah.
sure.
So I put on my serious when I do. That's my craft section over there. If I'm painting or working or whatnot, I'm always on the '70s.
Yeah. For me, when I'm painting, it's country music,
Mm.
which
Ah,
is really
but I like
wild.
some country. Yeah, I like some
Yeah.
country.
Yeah,
No,
I
I just
love
like it's
country too.
constantly in my ears.
Yeah,
And
music is great. We need musicians. We need artists. We need musicians. We need hunters. We need all these things to survive.
But and speaking of music, I think one reason people are so in love with music and different kinds, whatever they are, is that the music that we're hearing physically is really a reflection of what's inside spiritually. I mean, the
yeah.
God current is really a melody. It's different sounds depending on what region it's flowing through. So the heavenly, the celestial music is the most enchanting and trancing, most beautiful thing. It's indescribable. And what I write about, I mentioned in the book, and just in passing, because some people may not resonate with us, is that we, in addition to our regular senses, we have spiritual senses of Nirat and Surat. And those are Sanskrit words, forgive me, but Nirat is your spiritual power of seeing, and Surat is your spiritual power of hearing. So in certain meditations, you can get in touch with what we could call the sound current. It's been called many, many names throughout humankind's history. It's been called Logos, the Holy
Right. Some
Ghost,
concepts have similar.
Word. When you read about the word in the Bible, it's not about the written word. It's just the way it was translated from the Greek. You know,
Mm.
it's the voice of God, which varies depending on where you are. In what sphere of existence. So the music we're hearing, I mean, music is a very high calling. I have wonderful meditation friends whose whole life is music, but everything's a reflection. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the listeners and you are familiar with our six chakras. Well, the
Yep.
six chakras are really a reflection of six higher chakras. And those are a reflection of even six higher chakras that really go up to the Godhead. So there's a lot of people are fascinated by outer space, but what I want to throw out there is that nothing compared to inner space because our physical creation is really very little compared to what is it's contained within.
Hmm. True.
And different saints and mystics have written about this throughout time, and a lot of them have had to use metaphors because they were being persecuted against, or they just wanted their followers to understand. But there's much, much to explore. If you're pulled to do that, you may not be.
Yeah, well, that's true. I got a thing. I want to kind of circle back to
Sure.
the past life things. Now we've had people on, like Chris, does past life regression therapies. That meaning people today in this physical being, this physical body has all these ailments that are brought forth from past lives, being afraid of water, being afraid of heights, being afraid of spiders, drowning, why they bite the nails. All these things, are due to past lives. But what he does is he kind of puts these things to bed and then
Mhm.
eliminates these ailments and fears and phobias in your present day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, that happened to me. I was able to do it myself. I had a few very strange things. Like one was I couldn't have anybody stay over until I met them outside the house first, and a few friends of friends got very insulted because of that. I recovered why that was a sanskara. And the sanskara is Sanskrit for an impression from a past life. That's in the subtitle in Search of Past Lives. So when I recovered exactly what happened in a past life of why that was true, I wanted to go back to people and say, don't have your feelings hurt. There was a reason for this. Two other things were, I can think of three other things, but two which are where I had a very strange aversion to Spain and an aversion to China. And I didn't understand why. I'm kind of an international traveler. I've been to over 50 countries. But all my life, whenever Spain would come up or China, I'd have this aversion. And, I love Hong Kong, which I had visited in a past life, Singapore. Well, I discovered the specific experience in the particular past lives that gave rise to those beliefs. And once I recovered that, both of those aversions dissolved, totally dissolved. I
Yeah.
had an aversion to, I mean, I had an aversion to an Orthodox group of religious people. I would see them here in Palm Springs in the winter. They'd be walking around. Well, I recovered a life when I was very poor in a really rundown settlement. Our family was really looked down on, and I was looked down on. And all the wise men, the powers in the settlement, this created a feeling of, just, I didn't belong. I didn't feel they were my friends. So all these little quirks and idiosyncrasies, they're all related to something. And what I do at the beginning of my memoir is I list kind of all these interests and talents. Like I had a whole portfolio of floor plans and elevations that I started at the age of 7. When I was 11, I was offered a job by the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation, by their office in San Francisco.
Wow. Now I'm a designer, so we're going to talk about we have to take a break, but
Okay.
I'm going to pick this back up because I definitely want to pick your brain about that one because I like Frank.
Yeah.
Frank's my old buddy. All right, so we're going to play our short ad. When we come back from our ad, we're going to have our segment with Athena Bari, and she's going to be doing her segment on the crystal featured for this show, which is a garnet. Well, she'll tell you. She'll tell you.
She'll tell you.
She'll be with us as soon as this ad ends.
The Fox Den is now proudly sponsored by Vortex Ghost Gear, ghost hunting equipment made by an actual ghost hunter. Bob Christopher has been creating custom gear for decades. Vortex has equipment for all manner of investigating, such as proximity meters, which include the HTO, the V-Pod, and the trigger prop cats and dogs. For vibration, use the geophone. For manifestation, use the static dome, also offering fully customizable equipment designed for your specifications, such as using your team logo, theme, or a character. Our first, the Cryptochords box for motion and temperature, which also includes custom music, and the other customizable item is the Easy Scan Ghost Box. Visit www.vortexghostgear.com and get your equipment today.
I have to tell you, we can't hear you, Athena. Hi, honey. There we
Is that
go.
better?
There we go.
Ah, there we go. I'm
right,
getting better at this. We're getting there.
Yes, yes. Hi, beautiful. Okay. you
Hello,
go
hello. Well,
easy.
I will begin again then, now that you guys can hear me. So, hello, I am Athena Barry of Crystal Reiki Healer, and sorry about the no volume, but we've fixed that. And our crystal for the week is going to be this garnet. Let's see if I can get it with the light here. It's a garnet carbuncle, which, if you can see in this light, it really sparkles from the inside, which is part of why I chose this for today. It's very in line with the show, and this stone helps us to not only connect with, but also remember some of our past life instances, our karmic memories. And it can be so wonderful for grounding, especially in this lifetime, where we can often get caught up with, either a dream state or wishes, goals that aren't manifesting. This stone really helps us to ground us and connect to what's really important for us in the physical plane in this lifetime. It activates our root chakra and offers wonderful psychic protection, actually, for anybody who's especially mediums, psychics, healers, because you are so connected to your physical body that it makes it harder for entities and negative energy to attach to your auric field. So I really love this one for the healers. It's also this carbuncle. This style is one of the oldest recorded stones. There are 6 mentions of it even in the Bible. So it goes way, way back in our human history. And it's a wonderful stone because it really activates and inspires, our intuition. It activates our pituitary gland, our higher consciousness, but while keeping us grounded and rooted so that we're free to explore that upper side of us. So ways that you can use this stone: you can hold it while you meditate. It's very common as jewelry. You can get it just as a garnet. It doesn't have to be the carbuncle style, but if you wanted to get it as jewelry, that's wonderful. Meditating is wonderful, especially if you're dealing with, unsettled feelings or anger or anything of this nature. This really kind of pulls you back to yourself, back to your essence, and reminds you that you too sparkle from the inside. And that is where we sparkle. That is where your divine light is. So it really helps to remind you of that. And I hope that this was helpful. And thank you so much at the Fox Den for having me on today. It is always a blessing and a pleasure to come on and share with you and your audience.
Well, you are an angel, and I thank you so much. And I wore my garnet's my birthday. I have a garnet with citrine.
Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. I love that. So you've got those lower chakras just really nice and strong and handled. You can explore all of your stuff now. Go find the ghosts. You're free in here.
we don't need to find them. We find them on our own. But
yes.
We had the garnets up above. Mama did that
Beautiful
overlay for us.
Thank you.
But that was
I'm learning.
Perfect gem for this show. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Mwah, mwah.
We'll
Love
see you
you,
next week.
ladies.
We'll see you next week.
Happy 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Yes, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all have a wonderful time with your families, with your loved ones. If you're on your own, take that time for self-care and really reflect on your successes and the things you have to be grateful for, because we have plenty.
We do.
We do indeed.
And I'm grateful for you. So what did you think of that, Michael? Did you like Athena's stone?
Oh, it was wonderful, inspiring. Yeah, thank you, Athena. And it made me want to go get out my garnet ring, actually.
There you go.
I always surround myself with precious and semi-precious stones. And I've had my Vedic astrology done and gotten gems to balance my various planets. So thank you. Yeah, the garnet was a perfect choice.
Wonderful.
I'm wonderful. Surrounded by precious stones.
Yes, yes. And they're not too hard to find. The garnet is not one of those like really expensive, hard to come by ones. And really helps support you on your journey in higher consciousness. And Michael, thank you so much for allowing me to share this. And hopefully add some value to, your readers and those that are connecting with your beautiful book. I had the pleasure of reading, and it is so wonderful. And I'm grateful that you've brought it out to the world for us. So it's going to be very helpful for so many.
And
Yep.
also in your book, Raise Your Vibes, that you have right there, you have meditation techniques and all that kind of stuff too. So the people that are having problems and issues with meditating, you know, there you go.
It can help. Yeah. A lot of people struggle with meditation. And, it's kind of a thing of training your brain to do it, right? Turning off those thoughts. And it's not always the easiest for us, especially when we start working with those, that higher consciousness. So, again, why Garnet can really help keep you grounded. So you're really safe to explore, all of that amazing past life regressions and learning about yourself and your karmic stuff. It's really such a blessing to learn about these things, but it can also affect us in our present life. So it's always good to stay grounded. Yes.
Exactly. Well, thank you again. And there it is again. So it's a carbuncle garnet. That's a bigger picture of it. And so thank you again. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
They're gorgeous.
Mwah. I love
And
you. Bye.
so that is our new addition to our Fox 10 show. And we do try to, help as many people as we can, whatever means we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a good stone to have on you while you're reading. And my ring was on me while I was reading. So, it helps. It helps. We like all the benefits.
Exactly.
So now, getting back to this design thing in the Frank Lloyd Wright, where you kind of dropped off. So let's
Right. Yeah, out of the blue, when I was like 7, I just started doing floor plans of dream homes, residential houses, and I kept it up, and I would do elevations. I had an HO train set. I would buy these tiny little sticks of balsa wood, and I design houses and build them with Elmer's glue. And it was just so fulfilling for me. And so by the time we moved to California, I had a portfolio. And I don't know, I don't remember how, but for some reason I learned that Frank Lloyd Wright, who's one of our most famous architects, he had an office in San Francisco. So I wrote a letter and told them what I had done. And the head architect, Aaron Green, invited me to come in for an interview. And, I was
Nice.
11 years old. And during the
Oh my
interview,
God.
he gave me a book by Frank Lloyd Wright, and he autographed it. And he said, when you finish high school, I want you to come back because there's a job waiting for you.
How
Wow.
wonderful would that
Which
be? I
was,
so like on cloud 10.
yeah, I was just, it was fabulous. And you know what? I didn't become an architect. The desire left me. And
You're
I'll tell you,
an architect.
and I'll tell you why, because this is all clear in my memoir. 3 lives ago, I was born in America to immigrant parents in Baltimore. And I was an architect. I was a commercial architect. I had a family of 4 children I was struggling to support. It was very challenging. I never got to design any residences, any homes. So the desire kept building in me to design beautiful homes, which could never be fulfilled. I was lucky if I got a commercial commission. So that congealed into a karma, which 3 lives later bloomed at a very young age. I mean, why do children come in with all these different talents that have nothing to do with their family? So I fulfilled that desire, and once I fulfilled it, it fell away. It wasn't my path for the rest of this life. So many of us have different talents, aversions, deja vu. It all makes sense. It's just
Yeah, a lot of the clear cognizance that people have. That's what I say. I had to have been a man in most of my life, because I'm more carpenter, builder, designer.
yes.
I do it. Not only do I design it, I'll build it because, I'll do it right.
Right, you definitely may have done. Some people change sexes all the time, I'm one of these people. I've mainly been a male on the Earth. The first planet I was mainly a woman, which I think really was great because I developed all these great feminine qualities of empathy and understanding and receptivity. So it was a great foundation I got on that first planet. So everything makes sense. Everything actually life is fair. It's just we don't see what is behind the scenes. We don't see why things are working out karmically the way they are. And that's the challenge of being alive here. So you can really only do your best and leave the rest.
It's very
Thank
true.
you. Good morning here, 2 a.m.
Wow.
It's over in the UK.
Wow. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for tuning
I
in.
love the UK. I've lived there quite a few times. Also this
I have
lifetime.
not. I have not been. I really want to go.
I've been there in one lifetime, and it was an amazing memory. And somebody helped me realize the memory. I thought it was just a dream. Somebody helped me realize the memory, and they were part of my life back then.
Mm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
it's
Yep.
an
From a
amazing
from a
place.
past life of mine, I'm
Hmm.
afraid of marriage because I was killed because I had to get married. It was in a forced marriage. Daddy had land, so I got killed the day of my wedding, no less. Which they got all my land and all my whatnot because we were married, but I was dead. So I have a fear of marriage. Real still
I'm sorry you
But
have
you
a
have to
fear
get it
of.
right.
marriage.
Marriage.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, the idea of giving birth completely blew my mind and scared. I mean, I just couldn't conceive, pun intended, of how anyone could give birth. Well, I've had female lives on Earth, but I've never given
Okay.
birth. That's why it freaks me out so
Hmm.
much. Uh,
Well,
I
now
don't,
this lifetime you won't be able to do that, so we're good.
no, I have no plans to give birth at this point.
Yeah.
If
If
Just,
you
somebody
do,
just,
done
we
that,
want a
just to
percentage.
ideas,
yeah,
just to ideas.
Mm.
yeah. This is when I'm always downgrading like doctors and everything because I always have a butcher basically always working on me. Um, And that was true with my first delivery. I've had two cesareans. The first one, she was breech, and this guy, Dr. Borno, I'll say his name, I'll call him out. I don't know where he is anymore, but he was a butcher. And he tried to turn her in my stomach. My stomach was just complete and utter fingerprint black and blue marks. It was horrendous, right? And I was
Mm.
in labor for so long, like 36 hours of horrible labor that was like the worst part of it. And I was in labor before that. It was just a nightmare, right? And then I go in for an emergency cesarean. So by the time I'm stressed, the baby's stressed. She's still stressed. She's like 40 years old now. She's still stressed. I'm just like, it's ridiculously crazy. But then the second one, I had to have a cesarean, but I found out I could not deliver natural. I, I, the bones don't get wide enough to have the baby fit through the birth canal, so it doesn't happen. I would have died, in the days
You
of,
know,
you know, no
yeah.
doctors. I would have died. The baby probably would have died. But it's just like the things that you think of when you're going through this kind of stuff. But the second one was like a breeze because I scheduled it. I had makeup. I woke up with makeup. It was nice. The first one, I was like, "Who the hell is it?" I was like, "Oh my
Oh,
god,
God.
it's just atrocious." I all my eyes were red for like months. It's like it was just horrible. You know,
You may, I wouldn't be surprised if you came back as a man quite a few times after this,
right?
Mm.
right?
But I mean, I feel like I honest to God, I feel like I'm done. I feel like I've learned all I need to learn. I've done all I need to do. I've worked all I need to work, and I really feel like I'm done. I think
Yeah, but
this
now it's your choice to
my
come back. You don't have to come back to learn something, but it'll be your choice to come back. That'll be the question. Will you choose to
I don't
come
know.
back as a teacher?
Yeah, been there, done that too. You know what I
No,
mean?
but I mean to teach people who who you come into connection with, not be an actual teacher, you know.
Maybe.
Well, the mystery is we really don't know what our Sinchit karmas are. And
Mm.
Sinchit karmas are reserve karmas. Sinchit is Sanskrit. So unless your karmas, I mean, it's possible they could all be dissolved after this life and you don't have to come back. Um, but this is the great mystery. It's the inescapable unknown, really. I mean,
Mm.
there are, unless you're really a highly evolved master, you can't know what your reserve karmas are. So it's another challenge of being here in this body on the spiritual journey, having a human experience. So
Yes.
you may be able to complete everything this lifetime. And I mean, there can be angels who may incarnate for one life to give service. You may be one of those angels. You know, I can't say.
She is
So she is.
with a
So
sailor's mouth, but she's an angel.
what
Sorry.
did you say?
So
She has the foulest mouth?
I can't,
She,
yeah.
she has a potty mouth, but I love her just the same.
Well, as long
I
as
get
it's
my point across. It's
as
from
long as you say whatever it is with love,
Massachusetts.
I think you're home free.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is. You know it is. You know it is. It's just the patience level. Sometimes I don't have the patience I need, and Mama will bring me back.
Yep. I'm her grounding stone.
Yep.
Mhm.
This is why I believe that Gina and I have been together in past lives, because we've never actually met in real life. In this
Oh,
life,
Yeah, in
we've
person.
never met. She's in the States, in the US, and I'm in Canada. And just it's not happened yet.
Yes.
But it's like we can finish each other's sentences. I know when she's cranky, and she knows when I'm feeling like, so it's just the connection is wild. And in everything we've ever seen, the fox and the butterfly have always been together.
wow, that's amazing. And what I get from that is that you may be in your own what I call cohort of mind and soul entities,
Yeah, she's my
you know,
cohort, all right.
who'll be together, you know, after this lifetime, or you may have had several lives together before this, and that's why you're
I
in
think
such good
so.
Yeah.
sync. Now, I do want to bring up one concept that may interest people, because a lot of people are fascinated by the idea of soulmate. Uh, and there's this weird kind of Greek belief that the souls are split in half, and you're looking for your other half. Well, I
Hmm.
don't really buy into that. But what I write about in my memoir is three great loves, and and these loves surpass all the different marriages, everything else.
Hmm.
And for each of them, we'd had 4 or 5 prior lives together, like as brothers, as parent and child, as best friends. So we had this whole foundation to build on. And from there, that was the launching pad to a great love. So I hope people aren't like, people say, oh, I want to find my soulmate. I do feel that can be self-defeating because you're never going to be satisfied. You could say, I want to find a great love. That's fine, but then let go of it. I mean, your desires end up ruling you. I mean, if it's in God's will, I will find a great love with a person.
Hmm.
If it's in God's will, I will experience God's love. That's really wonderful to wish for, because that is the greatest love. It's beyond ego, beyond
Mm,
wanting anything. I mean,
right.
it's the
Yeah,
ultimate.
people definitely do that. They talk about twin flames and soulmates. You know, yeah. I mean, they're just labels.
They're labels, and they keep you being unsatisfied, and they really, I think they can even retard your progress.
They keep you in a box.
Exactly, it keeps you in a box, and I mean,
And you
I
can
think
toss
it's much.
someone away who could be perfect for you just because you think they're not a soulmate.
Yeah, nobody's going to complete you. What they're going to do is give you a lot of wonderful challenges to grow from.
Oh God,
That's a
do
good
we
way
have a
to
lot
put
of
it. A
those?
lot of wonderful, Mama. We have a lot of
Mm,
wonderful
wonderful
challenges.
chat. Yep,
Yeah, you
yep,
guys
yep.
have challenges, but think of your life as a treasure hunt, and there are spiritual treasure, Easter eggs, chocolate,
True.
whatever you want to however you want to
Chocolate.
conceive of them, which are waiting to be discovered.
Don't you dare. Don't you. Oh. You have to
What is it?
understand, Michael, I'm a chocoholic.
Oh,
Okay. You could, if I don't have it in the house, I won't eat it. But Halloween came and went, and no little trick or treaters came to my house. And guess who ate up all the chocolate? I'm sorry. But she was the lucky one because I'm in Canada. Everybody knows I'm in Canada. To get stuff delivered up to Canada to cross the border, it's a bleh. It's not a good thing. It's not an easy thing. So our guest last week, he sent her a book, an autographed book, and chocolates, and she's been flashing them to me every day. I was like, oh my god,
The box
she
of
just
yeah,
likes to
he just
torture.
mentioned.
She,
Yeah, he
here's my
mentioned that
challenges.
he gave his publisher chocolates, trying to get his book published. He gave his publisher chocolates, and I said, "Well, we love chocolate at the box time. You can send
Hmm.
us chocolate anytime." These bars, each bar weighs so much, and there was a whole box of them. He actually sent it. I didn't think he would. I mean, I figured he would send me his. This was his first book because I had gotten the second book, and I had read it, and I was like, "Well, I need the first book because I need it." but
right.
he did
Yeah.
send it along with this box. I'm like, "Why is this package
Notice
so
how she keeps
heavy?"
flashing them there. It's like,
Oh my God, there's I think maybe 15 bars or so in there, all different dark chocolate, milk chocolate,
shut up.
hazelnut, almond. Oh my God. Oh my God. It
Shut up.
is so good.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
We should have a
That's
chocolate break. So,
I know.
oh,
I
yeah,
know.
no, I love chocolate too. So, also, what I found, I went through really one of the most horrendous things you can go through. My intestine died
Oh
in
my God.
oh,
2012, and I was unconscious for 2 days. It's a whole miracle story I won't get into because we don't have the time. But what happened was they did exploratory surgery. They held my hand to sign off on that. And they discovered that like up to 7 feet of my intestine was totally necrotic tissue, was totally dead. So I had to learn exactly intuitively what to eat with my intuition. And 2 months after I had the intestine removed, I started having bowel obstructions, total and partial. And believe me, I mean, I imagine your labor was horribly painful, but I can't imagine anything more painful than a bowel obstruction. Only way I could survive was like on Dilaudid, which is 14 times stronger than morphine.
Mm.
So all this was happening, and I literally had to intuit everything I could eat because if I ate too much, it would trigger a bowel obstruction. So the reason I'm relating this, well, there are two reasons. One is that this was really priming me in exercising my intuition, because months later I began to recover my past lives. But also it's part of the book Anew Now. It's really how to make your life as wonderful as possible. It's I hate going to potlucks because people have these huge plates filled with food that they fill up 3 times, and I'm having such a small amount of food you can barely see it on the plate. But
mm-hmm.
I eat very little, but I intuit exactly what I need for each meal, and even though it's small, it's put together to satisfy your body. So a lot of people, most people have all kinds of physical issues. As you develop your higher consciousness and your intuition, this will help you lead you on a path of healing. And it can help you, lose weight, in my case, gain weight, which is very much needed. And really it's creating, I mean, the food is such an intimate thing. We're so close to it. And obviously it's a truism, your food becomes you. So I was told like maybe I could get more calories by having smoothies in the morning. Well, that didn't sit well
Having
with
what
me.
in the morning?
A smoothie,
Oh,
you know,
smoothie. Okay.
with yogurt and a banana. Well,
Eh.
what they were suggesting, maybe I could have a few sips and I'd be full, but I'm more of a traditional breakfast guy,
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't get my head around it. So this is an example of knowing who you are and acting on it. But I've just been through a cancer journey, and I was hospitalized and I had complications. And as little as I weighed less than my lowest hospital weight. I went down to 116. when I used to be nearly 160 with all this muscle mass. So I became, because I was only able to eat so little, I became really important for me to have the best nutrition possible. So a light went on my head. I started making smoothies for lunch. So
Yeah,
that is one of
that's
my
the juicers and all.
in a ninja. So that is one of my delights. I love being very creative, putting different foods together. But I have all these superfoods and greens and fruits, but each time it's different because my body is asking for something else. So you may have a practitioner who says you have to take 2 of these. They'll give you 30 different pills you have to take every day without fail. Well, learn to listen to your body. And in a new now, there's a lot of groundwork where you can begin to do that because it's all about taking responsibility
Yeah.
for
Yep.
who you are and what you are on your journey.
Yeah.
And food is a very important part of it. I mean, a lot of our
Great
diseases are
detail.
because of the poor food practices we follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gina and I were having
Mine
a
blood
conversation about this before.
Mhm.
I have issues with my stomach. I can eat something one day and the next day it's like, no, no way, huh? So it's like I've learned when I can eat and what I can eat that will have my stomach going, okay, you're going to live for another day. I used to eat, as a child, I loved eggs. I could eat eggs any way, shape, or form. And I can't eat them anymore. I eat. I went to a restaurant once and they made fresh egg noodles and they used the egg and I was like, oh my god, I'm having. But 15 didn't realize that the I didn't put two and two together. Egg noodles has eggs in it. 15 minutes after eating the egg noodles, I was on the floor in a restaurant dying in pain. I was like, it to the point where I'm like, I really want to die.
Yeah.
It's that much pain,
That's
but I can make them. My husband is like, "What's for breakfast? Are you having some kind of omelet?" And I'm good with that.
I
But
love eggs. No.
yeah. So yeah, she eats eggs like nobody's business every time. What
No.
you having for lunch? Egg sandwich.
Well,
Okay.
Yep.
well, yeah, this is part of the discovery of knowing what's best for you. Now, for me,
Yeah.
I don't ever touch eggs because it represents the creation and it's the force of
I know
creation.
you don't like to slaughter the animals or any of that, right? So
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm vegetarian, but I also don't eat eggs because for the kind of meditation I do, they're not really the best food. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I do eat a little bit of dairy, organic,
Can't.
usually. So, but I'm not telling people to be vegetarian, but it's
no,
worth
no,
looking.
it's a life choice.
Everybody will figure out what they need when they need
Yeah.
it
But
and
what's
how they
right
need
for
it.
them? What's
Yeah.
right
Right.
for
Exactly.
them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have plenty of vegan friends and everything, and it's like, if that's your choice, that's your choice. But don't down me because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's like
Don't be
having friends.
morally superior
Yeah.
about being
It's
vegan.
like having friends who I used to be a smoker. I don't smoke anymore, but I'm not one of those ex-smokers that go, oh my god. Okay, unless it's a Gitan cigarette, which is the nastiest smelling cigarette in the world. But you have I have friends who are alcoholics who don't drink, but they'll be like, no, go ahead, have your wine, have your beer, have your whatever. It doesn't bother them, and it's like, yeah, okay. Sometimes I'll not. I love ketchup. I put ketchup on my
I love ketchup
I had a
too.
friend who put ketchup on spaghetti sauce. It's like, dude, seriously?
uh,
But you
I love
just have
ketchup.
to accept who you are and let everybody else be who they are without, you know, downing them for whatever reason.
Right, and learn to be attuned to your body. Now,
Yeah.
I recently went through a period where, well, I don't drink alcoholic beverages, but there are a few non-alcoholic wines which are not horrible, and I just had this really desire to have Merlot. So I had non-alcoholic Merlot for 3 years, like a half a glass, and then all of a sudden, no more. My body doesn't need it
Yeah.
anymore.
Exactly.
So, so it's really, and that's why I think a new now can help people because as you create a higher and higher reality of awareness, you
Hmm.
become more attuned to your body and to what you need. In the book, I state what I call the essential question. And the essential question is, how can I live as my aware self? So, how can I live as my aware self? Is it sitting in front of the TV eating 2 bags of potato chips? Or is it finishing a meal and saying, I really need something a little bit salty and crunchy, and I'm going to watch a show for a limited amount of time, and I need just this amount of potato chips. I don't need a
Yep.
whole bag, and dishing it out.
Yeah.
So
And
it's all
that's what a
about,
lot of people do.
yeah, I mean, it's all about being conscious and going to higher and higher states of awareness.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. Food, and I have a love-hate
Love.
relationship. I love it, and it hates my body.
There you
Oh,
go.
but I blame it on I'm finishing Italian. My mom's Italian. She would mound the food on the plate. My dad always said, if you want to lose weight, cut the food in half. Start there. So whatever you put on your plate, cut it in half. Eat that. Drink a glass of water first. Then eat your half
Hmm.
plate of food. But then it's like, yeah, but I still go and I take the big plate and I mound the thing. And then
That's
I
why you take a
learn
smaller plate.
smaller plate. Yeah, you can still have that mound. You have that. You're tricking your mind. You
Yep.
have the mound, but it's only half. But I need to do that. And
Yeah.
then when I make a good food that I
And
like,
she tells me all about it, and
and
it's like,
then I
ah.
mount it on there. 'Cause it's good.
yeah, no, I automatically, if I eat out at a restaurant, I just eat half of it and take the rest home. Because if I try to eat more than I should, then I have to fast for a day afterwards, and I'll lose more weight because I don't have that capacity. So, I mean, we're driven, most of us, our lower minds are predominant. The lower mind is that mind which is really driven by the passions, which can be mean and judgmental as opposed to your higher mind. So often our senses are very much in control of us. And to develop an awareness of that is to begin to empower your higher mind, which is your nobler self. So it's really kind of being at the cause of your life rather than at the effect of what your different drives are. I mean, whether it's, alcohol or sex, I mean, the mind loves to be addicted. I mean, we're all natural addicts to something. There were no alcoholics in my family, but there were different addictions, you know.
Exactly. We always said that too. If you're an alcoholic, yes, okay, you're an addict. But yeah, it is. You can love dogs and be addicted to dogs, and you have a bunch of dogs. You can be addicted to cats. You can be addicted to
Crazy cat
anything
lady.
that's good. Ice cream. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
and these things can get out of control.
it's all attachment,
Hmm.
and the thing is I'm actually doing some new writing, and I write about repetition. And there are repetitions you can do that help rise above your addictions. The mind loves repetition. So you want to give it a higher repetition, whether it's repeating, the name, your preferred name of God, or just be aware of where your mind is taking you and to stop identifying with it. A lot of people love the repetition of when they've been betrayed by a best friend. That's going to come up again and again and again. I'm sure many of us have been through many betrayals, many instances where somebody's dark side really came up and overpowered them. Now, this could be the most loving, sweet person, but I can think of a number of instances in my own life when one of my closest friends, their dark side came out and did some really horrible stuff to me. Well, that the mind has a built-in bias toward negativity. Well, the thing is to learn how to work with your mind and just cancel it. So whenever anything comes up, I have the power to just say cancel, and it floats away. I'm not at all emotionally
Don't
involved,
even entertain it. It's
and I
gone.
go ahead with my repetition, which is part of my meditation.
Yeah. But
So
see,
you
people
don't have to
fall
be
into
a
the
slave.
wrong repetitions
Yeah, I
too.
mean, I mentioned that I write about 4 lives as a slave in my memoir. Well, we are slaves to these negative tapes, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with their own. And your life would be so much more glorious if you could rise above them. And that's one of the things I try to empower people to learn how to do in the new now.
Yeah. Forgiveness is really important for that.
Forgiveness is all important. And that's one of the sources of wisdom I write about. I write about the 5 sources of wisdom, and that's the fourth uh, source of wisdom is forgiveness.
So what are the
It's,
other 4?
well, one is clear-headedness, the other is
Mhm.
inspiration, then there's intuition, forgiveness, and listening. And in terms of listening, I write about the 5 aspects of listening, which are all detailed in the book.
Very detailed.
Yeah, it's very detailed. So you come in contact with the different sources of wisdom. So you can differentiate between inspiration and intuition, and where inspiration, how you can induce inspiration, how you can work on your intuition. And then listening is really all important, all the 5 aspects of listening. And the highest form of listening is listening to that inner music I mentioned earlier in the show, because that gives pure perception, pure knowing, because it's really the voice of God.
That is very, very, very true.
It's a little mind blowing, which is what
because people don't like the G word, right? It's like if you don't like the word God, whatever else you want to,
whatever you want to
yeah,
use.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a big point in my book, that the word God and the word Lord, they have a lot of baggage with them, emotional baggage. So more often than not, I use the term love source with the L and the S capitalized as one word. So I just use love source in lieu of God or the Lord.
Yeah.
Everybody has a higher power, has a higher source, has a love source. They all go by different names, but it's all basically, somebody that sort of created us and sort of helped us along to be here. So it doesn't matter what you call him or her,
Which is
God.
beyond him or her. It's the omniscient, pure consciousness.
We've all been saved by that. Hi, Ronnie. Oh my goodness.
Are there any questions that people would like to
I know. If you guys have any questions for Michael, please feel free to put it in there.
Whatever you want to ask,
we do have 2 requests for the books. We have Colette and Debbie both would like a book, so there we go. You ladies, just give Gina your addresses, and she'll pass them on to Michael.
Well,
and they're both.
I have one. I think.
Okay.
Now, also though, you talk about like, oh geez, I have so many questions here, and it's like we're getting down to the last one here. All right, the keys, the equilibrium, the 10 keys to achieving equilibrium. Can you just kind of give a couple examples of that? Why is this important?
Well, very much the book is about gaining wisdom, accessing your higher powers of knowing, and wisdom and equilibrium go hand in hand. Equilibrium is being in a state of dynamic balance, is being at your spiritual center, however you define it. So, yes, we will get to that. So I give 10 very practical keys, very much in tune with your day-to-day life, and to have people really look at things differently. I mean, the one that popped into my mind when you asked that is balance, being, having, and doing. So I describe that. I mean, most of us really we shouldn't be called human beings. We should be called human doings, because most of our life is doing rather than being. Or if there are people who are basically being havings, human havings rather. I have a friend who's really smart, who's really skilled. He is always researching what to buy next. There's a new car every 2 years. There's a whole new interior every other year. So he's very much, and I have people really examine their lives and draw a pie chart into 3 pieces of pie and intuit the percentages. So he may be a human having at 55%. Like my part of being a human being is higher because I spend so much time meditating. So that's just, you want to get into balance and be in balance every day, but that's just one of the many 10 keys. And the other one is to prioritize your day. I mean, people can wake up and look at their phones and then get into games, and the whole day goes by. So you don't get any of your priorities accomplished.
Right.
So somebody asked me, how can they get my books? Well, you can really order them wherever you order books, like on Amazon. But I would like to invite people to visit my website, which is goddart.com, because I have excerpts, a lot of excerpts from all the books. I have many interviews. I have a journey journal you can download. I have another very unusual essay you can download in Word, which is all about the signs from when I was a young child that I was being brought onto a spiritual path. It's called, the essay is called The Grace of Shadows Heeded, which is explained in the essay. But yeah, feel free to go there. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook. My book page and Facebook is called More Bliss. It's the sequel to Bliss, which has been written for a long time but hasn't been published yet. And Bliss is about the elevating the essential virtues. More Bliss, hopefully it'll come out soon, is about the 33 elevating virtues and spiritual strengths. So feel free to visit the book page.
I definitely want the In Search of Past Lost Lives one.
Well, I can definitely have that sent to you and Mama D as well.
Thank you.
Oh,
And
that's so sweet.
and as well as Spiritual Revolution, because
Yes, please. That one I want.
Well, I don't
spiritual
want to be greedy.
what?
I said I don't want to be greedy, but yeah.
No, I'd love to share that with you. Spiritual Revolution, which is still in print, it's coming up on its 25th anniversary.
Wow.
That Australian bookshop named it, along with Be Here Now and the Bible, is one of the 10 best metaphysical books ever written.
Ever written, right?
Yeah,
If you haven't read,
all my metaphysical studies of spiritual writings and realized masters and saints, what I did was I distilled all their teachings into 52 easily understood principles. It's really the whole spirituality, starting with embrace the fact that you're going to die. And the second principle is ask for forgiveness. If there's somebody you hurt, you really, I go through the whole practice. It's really helpful to approach the person with a humble heart and work through what you've done. And if they're gone, if they're dead, you can work on it with God. Ask God to be forgiven. And as I stated a few minutes earlier, forgiveness is one of the sources of wisdom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
forgiveness and well, journaling to figure out also who needs to do the forgiving, or who, do you feel like you need to forgive someone, or do you feel like you need to be forgiven? You know what I mean?
Well, it's all important. And I actually have 4 chapters on forgiveness in Spiritual Revolution, including
that's a big misconception.
Yeah, including forgive yourself. So
Yeah, that's I think the most difficult thing for a lot of people is learning to forgive themselves.
yes, definitely. So that's very important. But it follows a whole progression of things, and a lot of them will surprise you. But it takes you also beyond what are called the 5 vices, the 5 perversions, to turn them into virtues, into spiritual strengths. So it's really a handy little course on everything you wanted to know about spirituality but didn't know how to ask.
Yes, so Bible.
Yeah, better than everything you wanted to know about sex, but we're afraid to ask. That's easy to find out.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, you just put that book cover on it, and then when they get in there, then they'll be like, oh, you know what?
Right, maybe Woody Allen would make a movie out of it.
Better than they ever could have imagined.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I mean, sex is passing, it's transitory. I mean, no matter how sexually satiated you are, it's going to leave you, you're going to end up feeling empty. True spirituality is the one thing that can fill you completely.
Right. And that enlightens and heightens everything, every aspect of your being. When they always say, negative attracts negative and positive attracts positive, it's very true. When you start learning in the spiritualism, it's like that's an addiction. Once you hit one plateau, it's like it's like a drug. You need to get to the next one, then you want the next one, and you want the next one because you know how good it is.
Well, the true spiritual journey, you can call it addiction, but it's the best addiction you can have, because the soul just wants one thing: it's yearning for oneness, to return to the love source. So
Exactly, because spirituality is an addiction of it's not a physical addiction. It's
it's
more of a mental and a spiritual
it's
thing.
really the voice of the soul coming through, and that's why I
Hmm.
put so much stress on empowering your higher, nobler self, because your better self can become an ally of the soul.
Mm.
Being on this physical plane, this is not the natural home of the mind. The natural home of the mind is universal mind, which is at the top of the second region, the causal plane, which is also called Trikuti. Uh, so the mind will never be happy here because it's not in its natural home. And there are paths you can follow that will return it to its natural home. But this yearning within you, if you've ever felt like this weird homesickness, although you're home, or this
Hmm.
longing, or this yearning, that's really the soul feelings coming through to your consciousness of
Yeah.
seeking that all-embracing love, that oneness.
And don't ignore those things.
Don't,
Nope.
yeah, follow, yeah, listen to it and follow that, because that is your treasure hunt. Believe me.
Yeah.
It
Did
is.
you
It
notice
is.
how I put that treasure box in that video too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. But I have a question though. The word sanskaras, is that how you say that? Or
yeah, samskara, very
yeah,
good.
that's in the subtitle of one of your books. And what is that? And what are examples of that? And
Yeah, I'm,
how's
I'm
that?
glad you brought that up. And Sanskara is Sanskrit for like impression from a past life. I mean, it can mean a lot of Indian words can mean many things, but specifically, Sanskara is impression from a past life. So the aversions I was talking to, the aversion to Spain and China, that was a prominent Sanskara. The ability to design houses out of nowhere, that was a Sanskara. I picked up German really easily. I really wanted to take French. My mother said, "I'll help you with French." At one point, she spoke 7 languages, but she said, "You're on your own when it comes to German." Well, I breezed through German after 3 weeks.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yeah, ich kann sehr gut Deutsch. At least I used to. Within 3 weeks of being in Germany, I was dreaming in German. It came very easily. Well, the point is, in my last life, as part of this English supply company, I had this uncle who was very aggressive in a business sense. He wanted to open foreign offices. So I learned German in London, and I opened an office. I worked in Zurich first, and then I worked in Cologne. So I became fluent in German. So that was a sanskara. That was an impression from my past life. I just intuitively knew German would be a lot easier than French. I knew some French 2 lives ago. I had my honeymoon in the French part of Switzerland. Now, there's something
Oh.
else in the subtitle, uh, Mind and Soul. Maybe you can tell people why it looks a little unusual, because you have mind and an ampersand, which is an am sign, and a soul. And some people, if they look at the title, may think we ran out of room on the cover. Well,
Right.
and I had an argument, not an argument, but a discussion with the publisher about this because he wanted to have it separated. I said, no, one of the whole major points of the book, my memoir, is that, yeah, it's a little bit too small to see, but at the very bottom on the right of the subtitle, you see
And your
mind and
mind
soul.
and soul. Yep. And
There's no space between them. And the reason for that is that your mind and soul are knotted together. I really wanted to drive
True.
that point home, that the soul has a mind that it's had since it came down through the mental planes. And they're not natural allies. I mean, once
Yeah.
you
No.
master the mind, you can't have a better friend. It's going to make you sit down and meditate
Hmm.
because it loves that bliss.
Sticking it in.
But until you master your mind, it's going to want to go there. It's going to go everywhere. It's going
Yeah.
to drive you crazy. I mean, people call it the monkey mind for a reason. It's a monkey that is hyped up on cocaine and speed and, playing a pinball machine.
yep.
We all have these crazy minds. So I mean, it's a lifelong struggle. It's a many life struggle for many people
Mm.
to become masters of your mind, but you can do it. I mean, we're human beings for a reason. I mean, as much as
True,
I
very
love
true.
dogs and other animals, they can be meditative, using the term loosely, but they can't consciously worship God. In the human form, you can worship and become one with the love source. This is the gift of being human. And that, Thanksgiving is coming next week. That is what we can be thankful for, no matter how hard our life is. I mean, there is not a person on earth who isn't suffering in one way or many ways.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
true.
we become painfully aware of that, and we don't know what we're going to have to go through for the rest of our lives. We really don't. You may think you know the future, but you're walking on hills with all kinds of terrain, rocky, volcanic, weeds, you name it, but you can't see beyond the hill in front of you.
And the thing is, you can be walking on a straight path, and what you think is like, man, we're good, and all of a sudden you trip over a footprint. Gina,
Yeah.
and hurt your
Now,
ankle.
one of my lives I wrote about from when I was on another planet, I was in a wonderful partnership. I died. We went on an exploration trip to another country, and we
Mhm.
got caught in quicksand,
Ooh.
and we got swallowed alive, literally. That's
You
how I
can't.
died. One funny thing about the life, I couldn't believe I was doing this, but most of the lives I describe how I died. And
Yeah,
believe
this
me,
is,
I if whatever you can think of, I've had that kind of death.
well, I had one. I have one that because I did a session with that guy that I was talking about, Chris, right? To I had the white floaties that kept going in my eyes all the time, and the doctors are like, nothing's there. I'm like, I'm getting blinded. There's something there. Well, I did this
Yeah.
thing with Chris, and he does take you back through different lives. Well, I was a teenage girl in a train car with like four other girls. We were all sitting there. We were laughing. We were having a ball, like the time of our lives. The train crashed or whatever, or blew up or something. All I remember is a white flash, poof, right? Just a white flash,
Hmm.
and we were gone. And then, what he would do is he would have you, as you, go in and take that little girl out of there and bring that girl to your soul family. And you're putting that to rest. Since then, I've not had those
Mm.
floaties, going across my eyes. But that's one of the ways, though, that I have.
So that's an example of a sanskara that has been dissolved,
Right, right,
and you're
Bingo.
no longer burdened by it, and or however you felt about it.
Hmm.
right. And it's
So it's
amazing.
just
So,
always about coming to higher and higher awareness, and everything makes sense ultimately. But understanding, some people say, is the booby prize. I mean, the real reward is just a love you can have forever.
yeah.
That's what I mean, a real love, not somebody who's gonna. And I'm not talking about a personal love. I'm talking about a true,
Yeah.
spiritual love.
You were going to say something, Mama.
Yeah. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but what kinds of practical guidance do you offer the readers to transform their lives? If you could give people three things that they have to do to start down that path of transforming their lives, what would they be?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the person, and I would ask them first to really intuit any way they can. I mean,
Hmm.
ask your higher self, what are the three things I can best do? And of course, it'd be easier after reading my book. But the first thing that came to mind as a general thing would be to watch your thoughts and observe them and
Hmm.
know that you are not your thoughts. Uh, Observe where your mind makes you do something that you may not necessarily do. The third thing would be to discover what it feels like to be in your spiritual center, which is when you're most calm, positive, grounded, at ease. I list 10 different aspects of being at your spiritual center. And then I also describe ways to go back to your spiritual center. And that's part and parcel of equilibrium. We want to keep returning to our spiritual center because that's our center of knowingness and our center of power and our center of love. So discover what it feels like to be at your spiritual center, and that's going to be evolving as you continue to expand and grow spiritually.
True.
Well, this has been amazing, honestly.
It has been a mind-opening in a lot of ways show.
Yeah. Well, you know
Well, it's
what?
a pure delight to be with both of you and
Thank you.
Athena.
Yeah.
And I'll get those books will come to you, and we can ideally do another show. This is
Yes,
Yeah.
that'll
Yeah.
be that'll be
When
nice.
your new book comes out too. You know,
New book.
the new book, the More Bliss book.
oh right, yeah. I need to, but I keep finding other things I want to write, which I'm doing now. Publishing is a long process, but maybe more books will come out soon.
Yeah.
Oh, ideally.
Everybody's got a to-do list, and you've got a book's to-do list,
We
or
do too.
yours is a to-write list.
We do
Yes.
too.
Yeah, I know. We got to get around.
We're in the
to
midst.
that.
We're in the midst of a
We are. We are.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I want to wish you a really
our pleasure.
fulfilling Thanksgiving.
Yes, very happy.
Yeah, happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving to all my friends in the U.S. because we Canadians
And we will
done
not
ate
be
our
here
turkey.
next week for Thanksgiving. So yeah, poor Mama, she doesn't get to eat turkey up there, right? Unless you
Really? Seriously? I married an American. Why you think I married an American? So I can make two Thanksgivings.
Yeah, that's
She had it all figured out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Ah,
Plus, there's not many Canadians who can handle all this.
so true.
I'm a special breed.
That is so true. But so we won't be here next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. And we hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please share it. If you didn't, please share it.
Yeah.
Because this is going to help someone. It could help one of your friends. It could help many of your friends. But please, just do that for us. Hang with us for a minute, Michael. And for all of you guys, again, happy Thanksgiving. We love you. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you again for joining us for another episode in the Fox Den. We're here every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you a variety of guests, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and our anchor venues. We would love it if you would go to our YouTube channel, The Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, and please subscribe, share, and definitely hit the notification button to never miss a show. We'll see you all next week, and subscribers, watch for our pop-up shows as well.